QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode of QuaranJazz. I'm Lisa Fernandes, jazz singer and songwriter from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And QuaranJazz is a place for jazz musicians to talk about the projects, their influences, what they are doing during these lockdown days. So it's our place. In this episode we have our first jazz lady. Lisa Marie Simmons has a very interesting project mixing poetry and prose, but let's get it from her. Hey Lisa, thank you very, very much for your participation. Tell us about your latest album.
Hello, Jeza and listeners. My name is Lisa Marie Simmons, and I'm so happy to be here speaking to you at this moment, and so happy to be involved in this wonderful idea of a project. I'd love to tell you about my latest album, which was released on the 13th of March on Rope-a-Dope Records. It's called NoteSpeak, Amori e Tragedie In Musica. And it is musically speaking, a juxtaposition of jazz, electronica, and funk. And as regards the voice or the lyrics, it's not rap, it's not spoken word, but it's some combination thereof. It's a little bit of poetry, a little bit of prose. We're sort of taking a cue from artists like Brian Jackson, Gil Scott-Heron, The Last Poets, and we approach these spoken word pieces with the poetry and the music really intricately intertwined.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. And did you guys have time to show the album, to perform it live?
So, as I said, the album was just released, though we did do an anteprima. We presented it in November in Prague for the International Jazz Festival there at Reduta Jazz Club, and had a great tour through Italy and Austria and the Czech Republic. And then in January, we were lucky enough to play on the music stage for the Jaipur Literature Festival. But unfortunately, we are now on lockdown and quarantined like everyone else. So we were unable to do our presentation here in Italy that we had planned in our release party, our album release party. I'm supposed to be in Philadelphia right now at the label doing some interviews, but unfortunately, all of that didn't happen. Like everyone else, my plans, my grand scheme was derailed. So what we're doing is, we're hunkered down and we're writing and composing every day and working on videos to put out for people. Like many others, we also want to do some live streaming. Here, it's a little bit difficult because, so there are 14 musicians on the actual album, but our touring band is 6 musicians. And we are discussing doing some live streaming, but we're all in different provinces here in Italy, so we're no longer allowed to travel between, provinces. And unfortunately, we also need a lot of space because we need to have at least 1.5 meters between each musician. And so even in our home studios, that's a difficult thing to do. So what we are doing is recording a song, which for a video, which actually maybe is the song that I'll present for you here today, called Returning from Pluto. We're recording it individually in our home studios, and then we're going to cobble together a video to release with this song. And the reason that we've chosen it is because of the concept of the song. There's a book called there's a book called The Overview Effect by a guy called Frank White, and it speaks about a phenomena that takes place with astronauts when they are all astronauts from all over the world, when they're out in space and they're looking down on planet Earth. This wonderful phenomena happens where they cease to see countries and divisions and see only the beauty of how we are all connected. And I am just fascinated by this concept and this phenomena that happens. So I think it's a really good song for this moment as it speaks to unity.
Wow, that's a very interesting story. I didn't know about this phenomenon. Very nice. And it's very good to know that you guys are doing stuff despite of all the restrictions going on now. Well, to our listeners, it's good to clarify that Lisa Marie is based in Italy. That is, she is home office in Motos for a long time already. And now, tell us more about the lineup of your latest album, this big lineup.
So on our new album, NoteSpeak, Amori e Tragedie In Musica, there are 14 musicians that I'm lucky enough to work with. So the lineup consists of Marco Cremeschini on keyboards, arrangements, the composer. Laura Mazzotto is our violinist, and she's amazing. Then I have Fulvio Sugurta on trumpet, Guido Bombardiere on alto sax and bass clarinet. My good friend Machan Taylor sang the lead vocal on Samia. And then we have Valerio Abeni on drums, Joy Grifoni on upright bass, Marco Cacconi on electric bass, Valeria Bonazzoli on percussion, so many people, Maurizio Giannone on percussion, Marco Mondini on cajon, my brother Miles Simmons Powell sang background vocals, as well as my good friend Lisa Bell also sang background vocals. So yeah, it is a rich, full album with a lot of different influences.
Well, now I got really curious about your creative process. How was it, the creative process of the album and choosing the songs?
So a little background about how NoteSpeak came to be. Marco Cremeschini, the pianist and co-composer on this project, and I are co-founders of another band called Hippie Tendencies. And we worked with that band for years. We still do. And on the second album, we had experimented with combining a couple of songs from Joan Baez and Ennio Morricone's soundtrack for the film Sacco e Vanzetti. So it's the Ballad of Sacco e Vanzetti and Here's to You, which are famously based on letters that are attributed to Bartolomeo Vanzetti, letters written to his father as they waited to be executed. And we were really struck by the parallels of that tragic story of immigrants and today's tragic immigrant stories, and we decided to pay homage. So we ended up on a song that relied heavily on improvisational jazz. And though we recorded it, we never played it live the same way twice. So rather than adapting or changing the existing vocal melodies, we decided that I would not sing it, but would speak the lyric, shout it, proclaim it. And rather unexpectedly, that interpretation became one of the most requested songs at Hippie Tendency shows. And so we were inspired to keep working in that vein. In our house, I sit at my desk, which is at the top of the house, and Marco's home studio's in the very bottom, and I can hear him, the faint strains of his music, always sublime notes that float up to my desk and provide the soundtrack to my day. And so his compositions, as I sat agonizing over every word in whatever day's poem I was working on, somehow started to mingle with whatever truth I was seeking to record. And then we'd meet at the end of the day, as we still do at the dinner table, and compare notes. He's always my first reader, and I'm always his first listener. Each of the songs on NoteSpeak has its own story. Some have started from the poem, some began from Marco's music, but from the outset we were dedicated to making sure that they were one entity, not poems with background music. The music could certainly stand alone, and I hope that the poems can as well. It's that their worth is exponentially greater entwined.
And also for touring, you guys plan to go with this complete lineup?
The touring band is a different lineup than that of the album itself. We do still have Laura Mazzotto on violin and Marco Cacconi on bass, and of course Marco Cremeschini on keys. But we have added Manuel Caliumi on alto sax and Federico Negri on drums. And we've been really lucky to have played with this band for the International Jazz Festival in Prague, hosted by the Reduta Jazz Club, and in Austria. And we were just in India for the Jaipur Literature Festival's music stage, which was an incredible moment that we really, really, really enjoyed.
And Lisa, how about the future? Or at least the near future? Any plans?
So yes, as far as the future is concerned, I don't know. We've got all of our gigs for the foreseeable future have been canceled, including our summer tour. So we will continue to look for new ways to reach our audience and most of all, to throw light. I should add here also that although we cannot, as a full band, do any live streaming, Marco Cremeschini, who is my co-composer and the pianist on this album, and I live together. So the two of us, we might do we'll do some live streaming. So please keep an eye open also for that. You can find out more about myself and my band by following my blog and checking out my website, which is lisamariesimmons.com. You could also find out more about us and listen to us on Spotify. So please come over and follow me there. Again, that's Lisa Marie Simmons. And last but not least, if you want to support your friendly local artist, you can head over to Bandcamp and buy the album.
Sure, we definitely will. Well, once again, thank you very, very much for your participation. It was a great talk. And now, ladies and gents, returning from Pluto.
Have you ever heard of that book by Frank White, The Overview Effect? It made an enormous impression on me. It's all about the shift in a drifting astronaut's consciousness. The urge to protect those tiny beings suspended below that infinitesimal layer of atmosphere seen from above. That perspective that pulls when confronted with our own fragility. Like the feeling of when we are surrounded by nature's majesty, times infinity. In limbo, in the cockpit of a spaceship, untethered, loose, profound. In the cosmic space around those men and women whose intellect demands a search for answers to questions renowned, find a connection with each of us, with each and every one of us, a fundamental deep resonance. How Lilliputian we are, how fragile, how precious. There is no individual. To them is revealed a pattern. We have not yet found the solution. We are an endangered species. And the largest threat comes from none other than ourselves. When our heroes and heroines descend to this planet again, they are often changed. The connective, brought about by the reflective contemplation of our world juxtaposed with the infinite of the cosmos, alters them. They cease to see I, let the ego go and wish it well, and struggle to communicate the truth, the beauty in being one holy, codependent race. Seemingly in a state of grace, they seek to mitigate damage done by our propensity to hate.
QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. QuaranJazz, a podcast by Geisa Fernandes.